Drivers will need the load documentation and, at PPA sites, a safe potato handling licence. Brakes on, engine off, keys out of the ignition. It is the responsibility of employers to issue drivers, farm and potato store staff with high visibility jackets with reflective strips, hard hats, safety boots and gloves. Managers and staff are both responsible for making sure that they are used. If you haven't got them, get them from your employer. If you have got them, use them. If they are not in good condition, ask for new ones. On some sites, the bulker will be parked by the driver, and another authorised person will assume responsibility for the loading and unloading process. The same responsibilities apply to authorised bulker drivers. At the farm or potato store, drivers must follow the site rules and instructions provided. Loaded bulkers should be stored under cover to protect the potatoes from frost or excessive heat. Make sure that no one is in the way on all sides of the bulker before throwing over the sheeting rope. Take care when unsheeting in windy weather. Only enter a bulker in the prescribed manner, using the bulker ladders or doors, external steps or gantry. Check and sign that the bulker is empty, free from contamination and OK to load. The discharge door must be securely closed. Farm or store staff must load the bulker in a safe way and avoid damage to the load. When using a bucket, load from the side away from the sheet roll. Build up a heap of potatoes at one end of the bulker so as to allow the potatoes to roll gently down. No one must be in the bulker during loading. Do not overload, ask the driver about his bulker load limits, look for load lines and do not fill above the sheet support bars. Overloading a bulker puts people's lives and jobs at risk. Do not do it. Potatoes that fall on the ground must not be thrown into the load, but must be moved to waste. Loading should be carried out in a safe place, away from overhead electrical wires. Check for overhead electrical wires before loading. When loading with an elevator, adjust it to get the lowest drop height. Build up a heap of potatoes at one end of the bulker to give the potatoes a slope to tumble gently down. Elevators should have drooping discharges and baffles. When moving the bulker or elevator to load further along, watch out for the sheet support bars. If the elevator hasn't got a drooping discharge or baffles, then a site staff member should use a cushion to protect the potatoes until a heap has been built up at one end of the bulker. Remember, they must use all the safety gear, hard hat, high-vis jackets, safety boots and gloves, and enter the bulker in a safe manner. When travelling in a front-end loader, the forks should be positioned at the lowest safe level, allowing sufficient clearance between the road and the forks or load. Loading from boxes should be done over the side away from the sheet roll. Tipping should be from as low a height as possible. Build up a heap at one end of the bulker to allow the potatoes to tumble gently down the slope. Boxes must be fully rotated before reversing away. No one should be in the bulker during loading. Before sheeting, make sure that the bulker is not overloaded. Drivers must not take overloaded bulkers on the road. It is illegal and dangerous. Loaded bulkers must be sheeted with insulate sheets to protect the load from hot or cold weather, spillage or contamination. When sheeting, do not use loading machinery to help. Check that it's all clear before throwing the sheeting rope over. Pull the rope with one foot placed behind the other, don't lean back, and don't allow anyone between you and the bulker. Secure the sheeting rope, sheet tight, ratchet, and check it all. Before leaving, the drivers must make sure that they have all the load documentation and delivery details with a copy for the farm or store if required. If the load is delayed or parked up overnight and the weather is very hot or cold, then it should be parked in sheltered conditions. At the delivery site, the driver will need the load documents and at PPA sites, a safe potato handling licence. The bulker must have a current electrical certificate. When at the weighbridge, sampling point or unloading bay, brakes on, engine off and keys out of ignition. Drivers and site staff should use high visibility jackets, hard hats, safety boots and gloves. Drivers must follow the site rules and instructions provided. Site unloading staff are responsible for the safe operation of the unloading area and must be competent to do so. The electrical certificate must be checked before unloading to see that it is numbered to that bulker, current and signed. Before unloading, an electrical earth test procedure must take place.
Okay.
During sampling, the driver must be out of the cab and in full view of the sampling staff. Sampling staff must work from the sampling gantry or steps and never move about on the load. Reversing can be a dangerous operation. Site staff should complete a risk assessment to minimise the need to reverse. One-way systems can help. The driver should consider all options to minimise the need to reverse and must use all available technology, including CCTV, to ensure that the area is free from pedestrians. If reversing is required, using signals understood by the driver, site staff acting as a banksman wearing the appropriate PPE must guide bulkers into the discharge bay from a safe position. Banksmen must be trained. On some sites, the bulker will be parked by the driver and another authorised person will assume responsibility for the loading and unloading process. The discharge door must be fully open and secured. It must not be used to control the discharge rate. Discharge hoppers and elevators should be adjusted to give the potatoes the smallest possible fall. Before discharge, drivers must check that all belt guards are in place and secure. Site unloading staff are responsible for checking the power cables for damage. Damaged cables should be reported immediately and removed from use. Site staff must plug in and latch the power cable and the separate earth lead, if there is one, before switching on the main supply. The discharge may be automatically controlled by the power supply or may be regulated by the driver using the variable speed belt control or by starting and stopping the motor. If the discharge stops before unloading is completed, the driver is responsible for taking action to free the blockage. If the driver has to enter the bulker, belt must be switched off. Site staff must switch off the power and remove the power cable, hanging it up correctly. If there is a separate earth lead, leave it attached. A person in bulker sign must be hung over the belt control panel. Access to the bulker must be via the ladder steps, gantry or door provided. Someone must remain near the controls while a driver is inside. Drivers should use site equipment such as plastic spades to clear blockages. When the load is freed and the driver has left the bulker, the sign may be removed, the mains reconnected and switched on. The driver can then start and control the discharge. If the discharge is particularly difficult, the driver with the approval of site staff may stay in the bulker to allow potatoes to discharge with the belt running. This practice should be used as the last resort to discharge the load under these exceptional conditions. It is essential that this process is supervised with unobstructed vision from the site staff member positioned near to the belt drive switches. On some sites, this may require an additional site staff member to assist with the requirement of unobstructed vision. Upon clearance of the blockage, the belt drive should be switched off, power cable disconnected, and with the understood signals, the driver should make their exit from the bulker in the prescribed manner. When discharge finishes, the driver must check that the bulker is clear. The belt can be switched off and site staff can turn off the power, remove the cables and store them properly. The discharge door should be securely closed. Drivers must check that all cables have been removed before they drive off. The bulker must be sheeted safely and securely. All load documents and weighbridge certificates must be completed before the bulker leaves the site. Bulkers should not be left on the site without permission. Thanks for watching. Hope it's been helpful to you. From here you can go on to take the test for the certificate. Just follow the on-screen instructions. Successful completion of the test and printing of the certificate will allow you to apply for a Safe Potato Handling License.